All righty. So thank you so much for joining me, Rose. So I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. For the people that are watching this, tell us a little bit about who you are first, what you do for work, and tell me a little bit about what brings you joy. What do you like to do that brings you joy?
Perfect. So my name's Rose. I'm 29 years old. I work in media and advertising. So I'm like literally in the job that was my dream job when I was in high school, which is crazy. Looking back, yeah, I think it's like really dumb that you have to pick what you want to do when you're 18. But anyway, so I work in media and advertising, which I love. What brings me joy? I love going to the gym, animals, free time, beach, just, yeah.
Awesome. And then you decided, I'm going to go down this property route. Question for you. Why did you want to invest your money in property?
So I think growing up, I saw my parents do it. So they had a few investment properties, which ended up being sold later down the track, just like for other reasons. And I was just like, oh, like, I kind of want to think about my future. I want a family one day. Like, you know, my job is really, really demanding. It's not your like typical 9 to 5. It's like, you know, not really weekend work, but over the weekend you're thinking about work, or sometimes you have to do late nights or lots of social events. And I'm like, this job kind of restricts me because I'm like very into training and gym. And like this job's very social, wine and dine. And I'm like, I can't be wined and dined. How privileged of me. Like I can't, like it just doesn't match what kind of my other goals, like my outside of work goals are. And I think it's a very young industry as well. But yeah, I guess the biggest one for me is just like wanting to build a family or have a family in the future and having time. I know my dad like worked so hard, like when we were growing up, and we didn't get much time, like family time with him. So I'm like, I want to be able to like, you know, give that to my kids in the future. So I'm like, if I start now, then it should be good.
You are very young as well, might I add, much younger than me. So I'm very, very impressed with what you've achieved so far.
Thank you.
So essentially what you're saying is a lot of family impact and the history of lack of time that you got to spend with your dad now that he's not around. And so you feel like that's made a big impact for you to try and create passive income in your life.
Yeah, definitely. Because I want to be able to like give what I didn't get growing up. So
yeah, bless. All right. Awesome. Thank you for that. So then tell me, what was holding you back from getting into the next property? Or shall I ask, why did you reach out to me?
So why did I reach out was because I didn't think it was possible. So I'm like, there's one income. I already have my own property that I bought 2 years ago. And I was like, that's it for me. Like, I don't think I can go any further. I'm like, it was hard to begin with. And I was like, there's no way, like a single girl at 20, at the time I was like 27, 28 can keep going. Because, you know, when you meet people or when you hear about people who own multiple properties, they're always like rich CEOs or like old like old or like men. So yeah, I didn't think that I could. And I was like, my wage, like, you know, being single, having like that one income as well, I'm already paying a mortgage. I'm like, there's no way I can keep building on this as well as like living my life or potentially going overseas or still being young and free. So I was like, probably can't, which is why I reached out to you, because yeah, I did see that, you know, you have helped other people. And then a lot of the people I've seen you helped were in similar situations to me as well. So I was like, oh, maybe there is hope. I guess I'll find out. But yeah, I didn't think it was going to happen as quick as it did.
It did,
yeah. The next one, but it did, which is exciting.
On to number 3.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
I just have to acknowledge, for those that are watching though, one of the key attributes that you, I don't know what the word is, right word I'm looking for, but ascertained within yourself was that you didn't take no for an answer, Rose. You didn't assume that you were stuck. You were like, I'm going to go triple check this to see how I can move forward. And that's something that not a lot of people actually have naturally. And you have that, Rose. And so when you can consistently think of, like, you had a bit of a challenge with your, just before settling.
Oh my God, we had so many challenges, yeah.
And then the first thing you went to, it wasn't like, oh my goodness, the world's ending. You instantly went to, hey team, how do we solve this together? Like, what's the quickest answer? And so I think some of those natural skills that you have as well are going to set you up for success. And look at you, you're so young and you got the next property up your sleeve. So, and you're on the way to the next one very, very quickly because you ticked all the boxes. So I'm very proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Well done. That's right. So tell me, what do you think were one or two things that you felt like you learned from me?
I think one of the things I learned from you is like looking at it long term. I think the thing that initially stopped me from buying my first property sooner was like hoarding my money and not wanting to see it go and not thinking of it long term. And then, yeah, I initially did it anyway. But then, you know, when I met you, I was like in that same mindset from before. I was like, I can't do this. I need to pay off my debt as quick as possible. Whereas like after meeting you, I was like, actually, you don't need to do that. Like, you don't need to pay it off as quick as possible. And you can leverage equity, which kind of ties into the fact of not hoarding money. Because I think when you are hoarding it, you're like so scared to lose it and not thinking about the long term. And then for me, it was just like, I don't want to have to like go through that again, which I think after meeting you, I was like, okay, like look at all the like amazing things that you can achieve if you just kind of like let that go, let that mindset go. It is scary because you're like, you don't want to see a low figure in your bank account or lower compared to what you had. But I think when you do look at it long term, especially when we're looking at those spreadsheets and we could see that build up over time and you're seeing the numbers right there, you're like, oh, like I can either have this money sit in my bank account for that long and it not make anything, or buy an investment property and I just like quadrupled what was sitting in my bank account, which is something I never have thought of before meeting you. Like I did not think of it like that at all. But
awesome. So you learned more about the power of leveraging your
yes.
partner, what I call partnering your money with the bank's money.
Yes, because I think growing up, you're always, well, especially in my household, I come from like an Italian household. It was always about like trying to pay your debt down. So, you know, my parents were very big, or my mom, especially with me in this house, was like, pay as much as you can in your mortgage, put more on, like don't do the minimum. But, you know, in the long term, that doesn't help you at all, which I didn't think about that like before meeting you.
And so now what are you going to do? Accumulate, buy as many as you can.
Definitely.
Build up that wealth.
Yeah.
Oy, I love that. Good on you. And the other thing that I liked is that how you thought about, you know, my money will not working for me as well. Like it's just sitting there. And it's interesting because not a lot of people understand if I have $100,000 just sitting there in a bank account, or let's just say I have $100,000 sitting in shares and $100,000 is being invested in shares, whether with real estate, one of the most powerful things is leverage. You can partner that $100,000 with, say, the bank's $500,000. All of a sudden, you've got an asset that is worth $600,000 working for you, as opposed to just your original 100,000. So
yeah, and that's
love
like,
your way of thinking.
Did not even think about that before. Yeah, because I did originally have like shares. I was, you know, and then another part of me was like, oh, but what happens if there's an emergency? But I'm like, I have an emergency fund. Like, it's fine. Like, what's so bad that's going to cost me more than like, you know, more than what my emergency fund is. So
I love that. Didn't have much to lose. All right, cool. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. So since working with me, how do you feel now about your portfolio? Say, for example, I'll give you an example. Say you wake up in, I don't know, 10 years from now, you're in your late 30s. How do you think you'll be feeling in 10 years from now about your portfolio?
I think very like relaxed about it. I think another thing that was holding me back is maintenance, and you know, what happens if something goes wrong, but you know, you do consider that in like a lot of what you help me with. So I think that's definitely something that I would feel a lot more relaxed about. But I think, you know, knowing that it's possible not to have to live the 9-to-5 grind for the rest of my life, which is good. And it still feels new because it's like something I didn't even think was going to happen, or something I didn't think was possible. So it's like, even just thinking about it, I'm like, oh, that's something I just never considered before. I just thought 10 years time, be working 9-to-5. Whereas now I'm like, oh, like I might drop down to part-time. I might, you know, might actually do something a bit different or take more risks in terms of like a career wise. But I think I'll definitely feel very happy and comfortable, which, yeah, I'm excited for.
Awesome. So it sounds like safety and sleep. It's so
Yes.
underrated. A lot of people think, I need to get to 20 properties. And I'm like, actually, you know what? Sometimes something just shifts a lot earlier than that, that allows you just to sleep better at night and live a more fulfilling lifestyle. When you can see, oh, hang on a second, I only need a couple more properties and my life's set for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and
So
I think it's just that kind of like mindset of just doing what as much as you need rather than trying to like go overboard.
Exactly. Doing that most important 20% that you need. I love that. It's a good one. Okay. So I was going to actually ask you, the next question I was going to ask you was, what's one piece of advice that you would give someone that's, say, similar age to you, similar type of job to you, similar, and has one house by herself? What piece of advice would you give to that other young female in a similar shoes to you?
Oh, I would say be curious. So, ask all the right questions. Or I suppose you don't really know what the right questions are, but ask the questions, do your research. I think definitely try not to let kind of your like who you are hold you back. Because I think a lot of people, especially like young women, kind of feel like, oh, I'm just like an average girl, like I can't make it or I can't achieve these things. But I think it is possible. If you really kind of do your research and, ask the questions, because I think if I didn't ask the questions, I would still be where I was like a year ago. But yeah, definitely be curious. And then I think the biggest one as well is trying to, I think a lot of people don't realize, but it's a lot of mindset kind of work as well. Yeah, which I didn't, like I knew it was, but I didn't realize how much like psychology and your mindset kind of play into it as well. Because, you needed to let go of, seeing your bank balance drop when, putting deposits down or, even little things like things going wrong. Like before my settlement, like literally everything went wrong. And I think, you just need to be level-headed and kind of just be like, okay, this has happened. What can I work through? So I think definitely like those are probably the main things.
Incredible advice. Thank you so much for that, Rose. I
you're
appreciate
welcome.
it. That's going to be very, very useful for hopefully for just at least one person that's watching this. So well done. I appreciate you. Proud of you and can't wait to help you with the next one.
Thank you. And thank you so much. Like none of this would be possible without you. Like literally you're like a godsend. But yeah.
Oh, thank you, legend. All right, we'll wrap that up.